welcome to next part of the guide. It's been a little bit delayed just because I wanted to do this right. This is the special weapons, and there's really only 5 special weapons that you still see today in RuneScape that are really common and useful. And each one has like their own uses and are good for different things. And I wanted to talk about each one and their ups and downs and every single pro and con. And I guess I'll start with the 2 main expensive spec weapons that you see, which are AGS and claws. Starting with the claws, it's pretty simple how they work. There's a base hit, which is anywhere from like the highest you'll ever see is probably like 400, which would be a ridiculous amount of damage. And every hit after that is based off this base hit. So say you hit 400, the next hits are going to be 200 and then 100, 100. It's just half the base and then a fourth the base and then a fourth the base, which totals up to be double the base is your total damage. So if you hit a 400 base, that's 800 damage in one spec. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think I've ever seen a Dragon Claw spec that high in PvP. The problem with claws is that they're easy to tab out of just because you can react to it and not all damage at once, so people can be like, oh my god, 400 base, tab, or they can put on the Phoenix necklace equally and survive claws no matter what. So those are the main 2 problems with claws. And when you're at where that's not really necessary or relevant is Mage Bank, High Rooting, and that's pretty much it. That's Dragon Claws. AGS is a very hard-hitting 2-handed weapon. And the special attack is 50%. Same with claws. Forgot to mention that. You get 2 specs with each one. You can hit very, very, very high with AGS, like 740 maxing, and you can hit 700 in a rune set. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's very, very accurate. And you don't have to worry about tabbing out. You can't tab on like a 700 AGS spec just because it just happens. One thing is it's very slow, so you can't follow up with anything afterwards. Like you can eat like a whole bunch of times, so it's not really possible to combo people out with AGS specs. It just doesn't happen. And another thing from AGS compared to claws is that since claws are broken up into many hits, there's not one big high hit. So if you spec into a vengeance with AGS, you're going to have a lot more damage dealt back to you than if you were to claws, which can lead to KOing yourself or getting your opponent KO'd if they're using an AGS. Next up are these 3 cheaper spec weapons. The Crossy's fairly simple. It has a spec that uses 60%, and it hits, the special attack hits anywhere from 200% to 400% of your max hit with a regular bash, people call it. So if you can just regularly hit 400, that leaves your range of damage in between 600 and 200. As a good estimate, I believe there's other factors involved which can lead you to hit over 600 if your base hit, but I'm not really sure. That's just a good estimate of how high a Karasi can hit. And the benefit to using a Karasi is that it will always hit that, and it doesn't hit 0. That's just not a possibility with Karasi, which makes it very dangerous when you're PKing. You pretty much don't see it at all in higher risk fights, just because people will be eating much higher than this anyways, and or they're playing mage like into hog fights or higher risking edge fights, and sometimes even rune setting. I find it hard to get fights with a Karasi just because it's people call it overpowered. Next is believe it or not the hardest hitting spec weapon in the game, the DDS, which has very, very, very low attack bonus compared to the other spec weapons, since, like 40 is its stab bonus compared to AGS, which has a slash bonus of 132. but that is boosted as a special attack, and the benefits to using a DDS is that you get very many specials. Each one uses 25%, so that's 4 specials in a row, and you're likely to get more throughout the fight. The benefit to using a DDS is that if your opponent is using lower armor, you can hit very high very often. But if your opponent is in DH, Tarox, or Bandos, or Thorax, or anything like that, you shouldn't really expect anything out of your DDS. Using a Dragon Defender is renowned for making the DDS very accurate, since it adds a 25% stat bonus to the DDS. And it's very popular, hybriding, and being able to hit easily, like 400s and like crazy amounts of damage with one special attack. And the last weapon is probably the least used outside of pure PKing, and I honestly think it's very underrated. Most people, I'm surprised, don't even actually know how to use a Gmaul correctly. What it is it's 2 hits, each one's using 50%, that are instant. There's no delay at all in between the Gmaul hits. So what this means is that if I turn it on right away, is warning since the Gmaul's, and it's an instant attack. And if you attack, I mean, let me see if I can go find something while I talk about this. So what this means is if you're eating, like you just started eating, and your opponent's like 200 life points, you can just put on the Gmaul and spec, and it'll be right away. Like there's no delay at all. And if your opponent is still 1 square away from you, and you're the last thing they attacked, you don't have to click attack on them again, which makes Gmaul very deadly, because you can just be like lazy and then you don't even have to worry about where your opponent is, as long as they're attacking you. And that's pretty much all the spec weapons. I don't really have any good footage of Karasi that I have recently, but I have a PK vid, which I'll put up right here, which is a very good demonstration of how Karasi works. I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, just comment, and I read every single one, so ask away. Part 3 will probably be up sometime next week. That will be actual PKing tips, and I'm going to start moving into how to DH PK, which I am very good at. not gonna lie. So, I realize that this isn't very enjoyable, and I always wanted to be like, maybe throw like a rap battle in the middle of my PK guide, but I suppose just for the sake of it being a guide, maybe I should not do that. And alright, if you want to stick around, I'm gonna come to a Gmaul spec on a cockroach, and I guess I'll show you how a Gmaul spec works. Oh, I don't even know where I'm going. Okay. Where's that rift thing? Crevice. I'm gonna turn on turmoil just to feel special. Alright. Ready, cockroach shoulder? Alright, so I always keep it right here. I'll talk more about that later. And so I'll just do a Karasi hit and then 2 Gmauls right away. Instant. I don't even have to click attack. And alright, the cool thing about that is this right after the spec I could follow up with, I don't know, Godsword Bash. Well, I'll talk about more later. Stick around for more parts of the PK guide. It's gonna get interesting in part 3. So yeah, and if you want to see PK vids, I make them pretty often, so subscribe for that too. I'm looking forward to gaining subscribers and whatnot. So thanks everyone.